The Charge back at home on Wednesday, taking on the Delaware Blue Coats. If you want to check out the
Isn't that a playoff game,
bound.
Mike?
What do you say?
Isn't that the playoffs?
No, but they did clinch a playoff spot.
Oh.
They still have 5 regular season games left.
Okay.
Then it's the playoffs. So if you want to see the Cleveland Charge in their second-to-last home game, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. against the Delaware Blue Coats, the playoff-bound Cleveland Charge. Get your tickets at clevelandcharge.com. All right, guys, let's talk a little football here. For the sake of this discussion, let's pretend the Browns are for sure going to draft an offensive weapon at number 6. They may go offensive line. We may want them to go offensive line, but for the sake of this, let's say they're going to draft a weapon. And on the board at number 6, when the Browns are going to draft a weapon, are both running back Jeremiyah Love from Notre Dame and receiver Carnell Tate, the receiver from Ohio State. In this instance, you have a prospect who's considered a blue chipper. Some say he's the best player in the draft in Jeremiyah Love, at a position where you already have a really talented young running back in Quinshon Judkins. Or you could take a prospect like Carnell Tate, viewed as the top receiver in this draft, but not a generational receiver draft class, but it fills a bigger need. Jay, if it were up to you and those were the two choices, Tate, less of a prospect, more of a need, or Love, better of a prospect, less of a need, which offensive weapon in this scenario would you be more in favor of the Browns taking?
I'm surprised that this is a question, and I'm anxious to see your responses. We have the most glaring need that this team has ever had at wide receiver, and that's saying something because we've rarely, if ever, had quality wide receivers. Our leading wide receiver in franchise history is a tight end. We've just never solved that position, okay? We drafted our running back in Quinshon Judkins, and I know he got hurt. I get all of that. But running back, to me, is the position that is really, really difficult to project. Sometimes you get guys come out of Toledo, a low draft pick, like Hunt, that leads the NFL in rushing. And then other times you see guys like Richardson, that's a Heisman Trophy winner taken in the first round, and he did have one 1,000-yard season, but by and large was a bust. So I like Love. I think he's a great player, and I think he will be a good player in the NFL. But we've had 2 glaring needs the last 2 years. We have fixed the offensive line, and we're going to talk later about that.
Well, we hope we have. On paper,
I feel like we have.
Yeah.
We have addressed the offensive line.
Yes, addressed, definitely.
We have addressed the offensive line.
Yeah.
Did we make the right moves? Time will tell.
Right.
I like all of them. I think we did. But if they don't draft a wide receiver at number 6, I will throw my hands in the air and just this is a glaring weakness that they have.
How many?
They have to take
how
a wide
many
receiver.
teams can you say you haven't had a receiver that you drafted and developed into like a true number 1 receiver in a decade? The last receiver that the Browns drafted was Josh Gordon, that they turned into a true number 1.
And you know what? I know he's a hit because he hit for a minute. But because it wasn't a generational hit, they haven't done it.
Who was the last one before that?
No one. I mean, Webster Slaughter was a guy
a long time ago.
Yeah, that was in the 80s, and he was
Slaughter,
I think he was a late first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick.
Yeah.
And he was.
They have had no wide receiver in the last 30 years that has had sustained success. Braylon, same thing as Josh Gordon.
He had flashes.
Sustained success, drafted by the Browns, and been good over a good stretch of time.
Webster was the 43rd pick, so second-round pick.
Yeah.
And he did develop. He was a good player.
Right.
But, I don't know how many wide receivers have we ever had that have made multiple Pro Bowls.
Since they've been back, I can't.
99.
And look, I know that Tate. There are concerns. I think his 40 time was a concern. It didn't concern me.
Didn't concern me at all. I watched him at Ohio State.
I did too. Every down. We both saw every play he played in his college career.
Created quite separation.
Great route runner, great hands, not afraid to go over the middle, makes incredible acrobatic catches at the sideline, has great body awareness. I think he's as much a hit as they could hope for at 6. I hope he's still on the board.
Ask Bull about drafting a guy who's got 4.2 speed and can't really play receiver.
Don't get me started.
And John Ross?
Yes.
Is a good example.
Anthony Schwartz?
Anthony
Schwartz was a burner.
Yeah, later pick, but I'm saying when these guys get drafted top 5, top 10 because of their workouts, they oftentimes don't pan out.
I agree with
and
that.
So,
I agree with that.
How about we watch the tape of this guy for the last
2 seasons.
2 seasons. Just tearing it up. And he's tearing it up. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith creates opportunities for Tate because of his.
But he went out and had big games when Smith wasn't on the field, too.
He did. I mean, look, I just think that. And this is not.
Is this as much a no-brainer for you as it is for me?
It is so simple, guys. Do not F this up.
Yeah.
Don't the best teams take the best player available?
Yeah.
Isn't that generally the smartest thing to do?
But even in this situation, they need a receiver. This kid played at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State's been putting the best receivers in football since Hartline has been there.
Yes.
And that's why.
And this kid comes to the Browns like, we don't really have to teach this guy how to work hard, how to run routes.
No.
Like, he's already coming NFL ready, man.
And by all accounts, a great kid, too.
And that's why ultimately, even though Jeremiah Love's probably a better prospect, I think it's close enough between the two, and that's why I would take Tate. Now, if they take Love, I will not kill him for it.
No, I won't either.
I won't, because there's
He's a
something
good player,
to be said
man.
about, look how the Lions, obviously the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
But that backfield, having those two great running backs,
I get it.
has been huge.
I get it.
I would take Carnell Tate because I believe, again, and I've been obviously paying more attention now in the draft process. The track record of Ohio State wide receivers has been phenomenal. Not that that's a guarantee for Carnell Tate, but I feel like the under-the-radar wide receivers have actually been better than the bigger name wide receivers for Ohio State. JSN was completely under the radar.
Well, not completely under the radar.
Well, but he wasn't as hyped as Marvin Harrison.
No, you're right about that.
You know,
and Marvin Harrison has been, I'll say it, he's been a flop.
Ibuka,
of all of the Ohio State receivers, he's been the flop.
Ibuka was under the radar.
Yes.
McLaurin. And I know he cooled off the second half. McLaurin was under the radar.
Yep.
They're all great. That's the one position. It's like, why can't Ohio State quarterbacks ever be good in the NFL? Well, why can't Ohio State wide receivers ever be bad in the NFL?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is... He doesn't probably, again, I don't know for sure. See, his ceiling of greatness is probably not as high as Jeremiah Love. But what I love about him is I think he's got the highest floor of any player in this draft.
Oh, wow.
I'd be stunned if he's not at least a very good player. Now, you draft him at 6, you want him to be an all-pro. And if he's just very good, I guess that's a little of a bit of a disappointment. But I think the Browns have, I just looked at it real quick. The Browns have had, Jerry Jeudy was actually a Pro Bowler a couple of years ago, remember?
No.
He was their first wide receiver Pro Bowler in forever. I don't even think Josh Gordon ever made a Pro Bowl for whatever reason. Maybe because he was suspended. I don't know the reason. But they've had nothing at the position.
That's why I'm surprised that it's close for you. Like, I get the greatest, the best available player. I get that in most situations. But the last 2 years, the Browns have had such a glaring weakness and lack of anybody. Like, Jerry Jeudy 2 years ago did an okay job.
Yeah.
But only with certain quarterbacks. You know, when Jameis Winston was in there, he seemed to, make it look easy.
And let's face it, Jerry Judy's career to this point says that year was an anomaly.
Right.
You know? Now, he's overall been better than he was last year in Denver, but his average season has been like 800 yards.
He's led the league in drops.
He is a wide receiver, too.
Yes.
He is a wide receiver, too.
And that's why, for me, this is a no-brainer. We need this position if he is available. And I love what you said about he's got the highest floor of anybody. Yeah. If you think that, you take him. And you hope that the process works itself out with Judkins and he's going to be okay.
Right, and taking Love is not about Judkins. It's about
the combo.
And it's like Judkins is not good. But if you could have a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type of situation, that in a perfect world, you could get Love and a top receiver, maybe they would do that. I don't know. If by some reason Tate is gone and Love is available and they take Love, I'm on board with that. But I think if Tate is there at 6, I think you probably got to take him.
And Jay says one of the most important things, and when it comes to receivers specifically, a lot of times these guys flame out because they're full of themselves. They're divas. That's sort of their nature.
He's a pro.
And this is not the case with Carnell Tate. Like, he is as good a kid as you're going to find.
Yeah.
He comes in absolutely ready. Like, work ethic's not going to be a problem. You're not going to worry about this guy being in the club.
Right.
Like, you're just not going to have those issues. So the odds of him becoming a above average starter,
Yeah.
10-year pro. I bet a lot on that.
Now you want better than that
You do.
at the
You
6th
do.
pick,
but you said,
but
like,
that's the
his
worst case
floor
scenario.
is ridiculously
Right.
high.
His worst case scenario
Yeah.
is good 10-year pro. In
take
my
it.
God,
opinion,
if we got a 10-year pro
yeah.
out of him,
I would say that the chances of this guy not being somebody you resign to a second contract are very slim to none.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're going to want this guy
And
to be.
we've seen-
barring injury, that'd be
we've
the only
seen-
concern,
of course, that.
We've seen time and time again excellent receivers in this league who weren't elite speed-wise.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
Well, Jerry Rice wasn't a burner.
No,
But
he-
I mean, a lot of guys aren't burners. I mean,
he is I know it's kind of cliche, but he's a pro's pro. That's what he is.
what did he
He's
run?
A guy who's
Like a
gonna
high
immediately-
4.5,
4.6.
4.6. Cares.
Tate or
Tate.
it was a 4.54.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Tyvus said that's completely fine.
Completely
Yeah,
fine.
no problem with that. Yeah.
Well, I think it was
4.64,
below,
I'd be fine.
wasn't it though below the median wide receiver 40 time?
It was below the median receiver. All
But-
the combine times this year were
Slower.
as high. No, as high as
Oh,
fast as
faster,
they've been.
okay.
But that's because.
Do
and,
people understand that?
But people, real quick,
when
Dustin,
you-
people said
4.5. 4.5 is
the
still.
slow guys didn't run, so the average time is just way higher.
yeah, yeah,
Anyone
yeah.
who was scared to run didn't run. So
Got it. Got
it's
it.
just the
He'll
the
run
real
faster.
track
What he
stars.
had did he have his pro day yet?
Ohio State has not had their pro.
Yeah,
yet.
I bet he runs faster at the Woody Hayes.
Guys, I ran low 4.3s at Ohio State, and there were receivers that I had to guard, like in college in the Big Ten, that couldn't run 4.6. They
Right.
run 4.7.
Yeah.
But they were unbelievable route runners. Like it's not like these guys aren't lining up in a track stance against the defensive back.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
They
not
got-
all linear either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously it's not linear. Your defensive back's running backwards.
Right.
You're running and you're cutting and you're doing all these things, and this is what that guy's
Who was
really good
for
at.
you, Dustin? I think you just answered it. Would you rather guard a burner that wasn't a tight route runner? Like, what was the most difficult thing for you to handle?
Oh, I mean, guys who ran good routes. I mean, I think about some of these guys like Bam Childress was like the hardest guy to cover.
Really?
Like, because he was just, his feet were so good, his agility was insane. I mean, he was Mr. Football in the state of Ohio.
Right.
It's not like and the guy was a good pro, played in the NFL. But sometimes bigger receivers who can create separation, and regardless of their top end speed, how many times do receivers really run 40 yards?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, very,
So-
very rarely.
I don't
It's-
need a
and you're-
track star. I
and
need
you're
a wide
you're
receiver.
Like, oh man, how'd he
Yeah.
get so open?
Anthony Schwartz.
Well, it was a stutter and go, and he ran
Yeah.
a great route that broke their DB down, and that's how he's wide open. But I just think that is overrated. You know,
Mike, what's his measurables? What are his measurables?
Carnell
plenty good
Tate?
enough.
Is he 6'3"?
He's
He seems
he's
long and
big
lean.
kid. Big
He's
kid.
listed at 6'2", 195.
Yeah, right. So he's pushing
take
6'2", and he's pushing.
How do you explain
200.
Marvin Harrison?
Real quick, before Marvin Harrison, I got a question for you guys real quick on this. And for the record, I would take Tate too. I was just looking up NFL comps for top prospects, and Bleacher Report did a comp for each one. If these are the two comps, would it change your thinking at all? For Tate, it's a bigger, stronger Devonta Smith. Be a good pro.
Hell yeah.
I wouldn't take Devontae Smith at 6, though. He's good, not great.
Yeah, but you
For-
said bigger, stronger.
Bigger, stronger
I mean, to
Devonta
me,
Smith.
That's
Devontae
true.
Smith, what he lacks,
Yeah, that's true.
you're saying Tate has.
Right. If he's a bigger, stronger Devontae Smith, then it's probably a
I would
first-round
take
pick.
it.
Good point.
Devontae Smith also has another really good receiver that's taken
That's
some
true.
of his numbers away from him.
Jeremiyah Love is Jahmyr Gibbs on steroids.
Well, that's
impressive,
Jahmyr
too.
Gibbs might be the best back in the league.
That's
right
very
now.
impressive.
So, man.
So
Yeah.
just want to throw that, like,
Yeah.
obviously
No,
comps,
that's
but
interesting.
Just want to throw
But
that
you know,
out there.
two Mondays ago when I was in, and it was not long after the combine ended. I had brought up about I don't care about speed.
Yeah.
I asked Mike to tell me the 5 fastest 40s from wide receivers last year, and he read them off, and they were nobodies.
Yeah.
And then we
Right.
looked at another year, and they were nobodies, essentially. I mean, there might have been one guy in each of the top
Yeah.
5.
I think
Like,
Jeremiah Love is going to the top 5 anyway, so I don't think it's going
Guys,
to
There- there's a chance
train
most of these
guys
specifically
aren't
for
there
the
at 6.
combine
Yeah.
to be track athletes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not they
to boost their stock,
Yeah,
right?
they
You
actually.
remember Dave Kennedy from Ohio State, or was he gone by then?
No, well, he was there until I got there, but I knew him.
He was the guru, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean-
he got the guys ready for combines like no other.
He did. But now, I mean, everybody's got
Everybody
a Dave
does that.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
What'd you say,
I'd take
Mike,
him.
about Jeremiah Love?
No, just Jameer Gibbs on steroids. I didn't say anything else.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go in the top 5 probably.
I was saying I think there's a chance that Tate and Love are off the board by
Yeah.
6.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
Like there's a very good chance.
And if that's the case, you either go O-line, you could go Tyson, or you could trade down.
yeah.
I think they would probably trade down.
It would not surprise me if the Browns traded down.
No.
Especially if
If
we
Tate's
don't know
gone,
they like both wide receivers. Who
Yeah.
knows? But you
don't
never know with the Browns.
No, you
never
don't.
know.
Yeah, that's it. It's the Browns,
Right. Yeah.
where conventional wisdom rarely applies.
That's true.
I think
All right, guys.
that's their logo on their new stadium. It's going to
Yes.
say, "We're the Browns," where conventional wisdom rarely applies.